My dad died when I was really young, and I always really felt like God was a father to the fatherless. And so as I was growing up, I realized that, my gifts were in analytical thinking and speaking. And I thought, well, gosh, I either need to be like a pastor or a lawyer. And as I thought about that, I went to my youth pastor and I said, this is what I think. And he said, if you're called to be a minister, that's a wonderful calling. But I will say this. I know a lot of Christian pastors, boy, we sure could use a lot more Christian lawyers. And as I thought about that and really sort of looked at myself and how God made me, I thought, I think I would be a better lawyer than a pastor. Maybe I'm not a great psychological counselor, but justice really drives me. And so I went to law school, but still had this heart for ministry. And so I did something you shouldn't do. If you look at grades to get into law school, you have to have good grades. But I should have been average in law school if you compared my grades to everybody else going into law school. And then here I was leading the discipleship ministry for college students at my church while I was in law school, while everybody else is studying 24/7. And yet when the grades came back, I was making all the high grades. And I knew it was God telling me, use your law. I've given you a gift to use law, but keep your heart for ministry. So I got out a clerk for a federal judge. It's a great stepping stone because you get to research and write opinions and help a federal judge behind the scenes. So you get to see what influences, what doesn't, what's over the top, how does this whole thing work? And so every major law firm wants you to come after that 1 year, wants you to come work for them, and they're going to pay you a lot of money. And I had all those offers, and I just thought, I just feel like I might suffocate if I went to do the regular law thing. I just don't feel like that's what God's calling me to do. And so I thought, well, what do you want to do? And I'm sitting in my little, I can see it right now, my little clerk's office, very small in a federal courthouse. And I thought, I'd like to do legal cases, help pastor churches, religious freedoms, our founding principles. I'd even like to go to seminary part-time. And I laughed because there was no paying job to do anything like that. 2 weeks later, two partners in big major national law firms called me. I never met these guys. And they said, look, we started donating our time for religious freedom, and we're getting so many calls that it's hurting our ability to make a living. And we were wondering, somebody told us about you. We were just wondering, would you be willing to come lead a group we'll help start, do cases, help pastors and churches and religious freedoms and our founding principles, and you can even go to seminary part-time if you want to. Now, being a little immature in my faith, maybe, a little younger, I said, let me pray about it. Like that wasn't the answer to prayer that I'd already had, it's kind of dumb. And the next day I went, hey, I think that was it. And their only question was how much you need to live on. And I remember thinking at that point, the offer I had from the big law firm, I thought, well, I'll probably never, ever get paid that amount of money again. And I said, I'm working as a federal clerk. This is all I need to live on. These guys pitched in out of their pocket. We started a nonprofit. And 35 years later, First Liberty is the largest legal organization in the country that all we do is religious freedom. Most people never get a chance to argue a case at the Supreme Court. Certainly a chance to win an important case at the Supreme Court. And so the idea that we now have 9 cases that went to the Supreme Court just in the last 5 or so years, and we won all of them, and that a number of these are not just wins, they are lifetime, what we would call landmark shifts in the law. I consider the Kennedy case a move that really is a shift of about 70 years of case law. It overturns Lemon, which is 50 years old, but it really goes beyond that in what it's doing and how it's really turning in a great way for religious freedom. But Groff is equally important because the Groff case affects every person who works, and every person who will work, and the fact that they now have protection for their faith. You know, if you say you have religious freedom, but you don't have religious freedom in the workplace, if you say you have religious freedom, but they can take your paycheck away, you don't have religious freedom. So this is a really important decision that a lot of people haven't even noticed, but it's going to affect my grandkids and my grandkids' kids. 8,000 requests a year. They took 57 cases one year, 67 the next year. The idea of them taking 4 of our cases and us winning 4 Supreme Court cases over 13 months, it's not possible. But with God, all things are possible. So I've just learned more and more that wherever God's train is going, that's the train I want to jump on. I'm not in front of the train because that would be a bad thing. But when great things are happening, it's fun to be a part of it. And we did everything we could to make those things successes. But they weren't because of us. They were because of the opportunities God gave us to literally change history and change the future of our country. I'm Kelly Shackelford, and I'm first in the fight.